All right. So first of all, we need to understand that words have meaning. So we may talk about identity, but not many of us know what identity is. So we're gonna talk about the ending, but I just wanted to say, what put out the question, what is identity? What is identity? I think a lot of people would classify that as characteristics which make you who you are, qualities or traits that you have that distinguish you from other people. And people would say that's your identity. I think that's a good, basically, a definition of the word. But as we go on in this Bible study, we're actually going to find out that doesn't mean identity. That's actually just a modern day kind of understanding of the term, but that's actually not what it actually means. All right, so hold on to that thought as we go into the Bible study about identity. We're going to talk about it then. So let's first read about some scriptures about people who were secure with who they were and what they were supposed to do. All right, so this is Acts chapter 16, verse 14, the first convert in Europe. And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple, a city of Thyatira, which worshiped God, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And remember, she sells purple. So the purple, just a little quick tangent, that was created by the Phoenicians or the Canaanites. They were able to extract this dye from this rock snail and able to create this purple color or reddish purple color. And so when you see that she was a seller of purple, that means that she had some connection to the Phoenicians, whether it was her lineage or she was in connection with them by trade. But yeah, just so you know, in history, whenever you see that color purple, it originated from the Phoenicians. They actually invented that color. All right, verse 15. And when she was baptized in her household, she besought us, saying, if ye have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. And it came to pass as we went to prayer, a certain damsel, possessed with the spirit of divination, met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. So this woman, she was able to tell the future. She was like a Miss Cleo type, a fortune teller type person. She was able to make money off it. So, verse 17, the same followed Paul and us and cried, saying, these men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. All right, so she's saying this every day. These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show us the way to salvation. So, think about it. It's like, okay, that's good. That's good. She's actually preaching the truth. That's good. But we're going to see in verse 18, and this did she many days. And Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Jesus Christ, or Yahushua HaMashiach, come out of her. And he came out of the same hour. Now, I just want to pause right there because, like I said, the woman was saying the truth. She was saying the right thing. But Paul was being grieved by it. And he told the Spirit to come out of her. Why was he so grieved about it? Remember, this topic is about identity. See, Paul understood, he knew that he was an apostle. He was called out, he was sent out to preach the gospel. But, he's secure with who he was. He doesn't need this woman to validate his existence or his mission. So, it may have been cool the first couple of days, but after multiple times, he's like, man, stop. Like, it's almost like, you're getting annoying. Like, you're almost getting in the way of my mission, because I already know what I'm supposed to do. And I don't need your word of approval, And I just want to pause that because sometimes a lot of us have this sense of we need some type of external validation. We need someone's approval. We need someone's okay to make our existence fine. Sometimes he'd be like, get into the habit of asking someone like, what should I do? Like, oh man, you think I should do this? Or you think I should do that? You think I should talk to this person? You think I should do this job? You think I should work today? And it's just like, you're constantly needing someone to, make your existence worth it when you should be knowing what you should be doing from the start. Of course, you get some advice and some counsel sometimes, but after doing it several times, you're almost making this person your advisor for everything in life. And the Most High is supposed to be that advisor through his spirit, through his word, through his consultation. We shouldn't be constantly trying to get someone to validate us all the time. Paul was secure with who he was, so he really didn't need that woman to constantly say what he was doing. He's like, I know what I'm doing. So he took that spirit out of her. Now let's just continue the story because it's very interesting. Verse 19. And when her master saw that the hope of their gains was gone, they caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers and brought them to the magistrate, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city and teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans. So now they're using their Roman identity against Paul and Silas. They're saying like they're trying to mess up our way of living because we're Romans. So now they have this identity that's going against Paul and Silas identity. They're Jews, we're Romans. They do things this way, we do things that way, you know. And we're going to see how that's actually going to be confronted at the end. So they imprisoned Paul and Silas. In verse 22, and the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes and commanded to beat them. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely. So now they're in jail. Now, verse 24, who having received such a charge, thrust them into the inner prison, made their feet fast in the stocks. And at midnight, Paul and Silas prayed and sang praises unto God, and the prisoners heard them. So Paul and Silas, they're singing on my mind, scripture on my mind. I got the scripts on my mind. Yeah. No, they're just singing songs, but they still, even with that confrontation and being in prison, they never forgot their mission. They never forgot their identity. So that's going to keep you in those dark times when you know who you are. Even when you're in the lowest states, you'll still have that sense of worth, the sense of like, hey, I know I'm gonna be okay. Just like when Joseph was betrayed by his brothers, he still had faith in the Most High. That faith is going to keep you alive. Saying with Paul and Silas, it's going to actually be able to help change other people's lives. They're going to be, they're going to siphon off some of that energy. You're going to be almost like a big ball of light that people just are going to be so attracted to, like a moth to a flame. Right. And they're gonna be changed by it. And we're gonna see right here in verse 26. And suddenly there was a great earthquake, so that the foundations of the prison were shaken, and immediately all the doors were open and everyone's bands were loose. And the keeper of the prison walked, awaking out of his sleep, and seeing the prison doors open, he drew out his sword and would have killed himself, supposing that the prisoner had been fled. But Paul cried with a loud voice, saying, Do thyself no harm, for we are all here. Then he called for a light and sprang in and came trembling and fell down before Paul and Silas and brought them out and said, Sirs, what must I do to be saved? So he, being the jailer, he's supposed to be a person of authority over Paul and Silas, but he fell at their feet because he saw that they were men worthy of him, more worthy than him, because he knew that they had something about them that he didn't have. So he was searching for that salvation. He was searching really for that sense of security. Like, because that jailer, he put everything into his job. Because he was like, if I fail at my job, I might as well just die. So, that's how his identity was wrapped in his job. And a lot of us, we have our identity wrapped in our careers, or we have our identity wrapped up into potential friendships or other relationships. And, sometimes we feel like, man, if this relationship or this friendship or this career dies or this ends, I feel like I'm going to die. And that's what's like, we always have to make sure we always put a little aside for the Most High, because he's the one that ultimately gives us that identity. And we're going to talk about what identity means, but that's where we should always have that foundation. Our foundation can't be anything in the flesh, because the flesh is temporary. And, if that thing that's temporary starts to shake, you're going to feel like your whole foundation is shaky. But if your foundation is the Most High, then whatever you build on it, even if it falls down, you can always rebuild it again. So let's go. Verse 31, the jailer converted, and they said, Believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, or Yahushua HaMashiach, and thou shalt be saved in thy house. And they spake unto him the word of the Lord, and to all that were in his house. And he took them the same hour of the night, and washed their stripes, and was baptized, seeing all his straightway. And when he had brought them into his house, he set meat before them, and rejoiced, believing in God with all his house. So they were just in jail, dang, the same hour, He got baptized and he brought him to this house and he was feeding him. That's wild. That's quite a night in jail. Verse 35. And when it was day, the magistrate sent the sergeant saying, "Let those men go." And the keeper of the prison told this saying to Paul, "The magistrates have sent to let you go. Now therefore depart and go in peace. Shalom." But Paul said unto him, "They have beaten us openly, uncondemned, being Romans, and have cast us into prison. And now they thrust us out privily? Nay, verily, but let them come out themselves and fetch us out." Now Paul's pulling out his other card. He's I'm a Roman. So it's like y'all mistreated me. I'm a Roman. He's entitled to a court and trial, just like as an American citizen. If you get stopped by the police, you're awarded your due process. They're worthy to speak to a judge. They can't just detain you just to detain you. So it's like that's not fair. It's like they have to make right from this. And if so, verse 38, and the sergeants told these words unto the magistrates, and they feared when they heard that they were Romans, and they came and besought them and brought them out and desired them to depart out the city. And they went out of prison, entering into the house of Lydia when they had seen the brethren, and they comforted them and departed. So, that's just an interesting story. I guess I just wanted to just kind of recite the whole thing, get the whole context. But the main thing is that Paul, he understood who he was the whole time. He didn't let these other people knock him based off his circumstance. He came in there when he met Lydia in Europe, and he was preaching the gospel when that woman who was a fortune teller was trying to just say it over and over. He still was staying on the path. He said, "I know who I am." Even when he was in jail, he said, "I know who I am." The same jailer that put him in jail, put him in his house. He knew who he was. He was getting beat. Same people that beat him. Now they trying to say like, "Oh, we sorry. We didn't mean that. We didn't know he was Roman." He's still keeping that same mentality. It's like, hey, I still know who I was, regardless of what y'all thought about me. So he kept that mentality. And that's the type of mentality we gotta have. That's why it's like, and Paul says, whether I'm, rich or poor, or, whether I have much or I have less, I always what's the verse in Philippians? I think it's Philippians. It's like whether I can do all things to Christ who strengthens me. Like this is that mentality he's had all through the book of Acts. All right, so let's keep going. Oh, this is the mentality he had. This is 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 9. For I am the least of the apostles, that am not meet to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. Now, this is Paul speaking. He's saying that he just before in the first verses, before this, the previous verses before this, he was talking about how after Christ was resurrected, he appeared to all the apostles and then several other men and women. And then he says that, in the least of me, I was the last one to see him, but he said, I am the least of the apostles, and that I'm not worthy to be called an apostle. But he said, but verse 10, by the grace of God, I am what I am, and his grace which was bestowed upon me was not in vain, but I labor more abundantly than they all, yet not I, but the grace of God which was with me. So Paul, he's saying, I don't deserve to be called an apostle because of the things I did, but by the grace of God, I am what I am. And I'm saying, he said like he worked harder because of the grace of God which was in him. This, when Paul met the Lord on his trip to Damascus, the Most High gave him that spirit of that apostleship. He gave him that new spirit that changed his life. And so he has to, he says that, things that I did in my past, the Most High made sure that, what I do now is not going to be in vain, basically. So it's like, I'm going to still work hard, and, show people that the Most High really changed my life. And that's, type of mentality that we have to have. That's like the Most High he really changed his whole identity, because when I say identity, I mean, he was a Pharisee. He was very righteous about the law, over righteous about the law and the traditions of his elders. But the Most High changed his heart to be an apostle for the truth and not just what he believed was true with the Pharisees. So verse 11, therefore, whether if it were I or they, so we preach and so ye believe. All right, now keep going. Paul understood what was his identity. Do you? That's a reflection question. Do you understand your identity? Do you know who you are? You know, if someone tells you that, this is who you are you still gonna be like, it doesn't matter what you think about me, I'm still this. If someone questions you, are you still gonna stand firm? You know, that's the questions that you gotta ask yourself. All right, let's keep going. It's another story. Peter's confession of Christ is Matthew chapter 16, verse 13. When Jesus Yahshua came into the coast of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, whom do men say that the Son of Man am? So who is the Son of Man? Now, Christ, of course, is the Son of Man. So why is he asking this question? Is he asking this question because he's unsure who he is? Or is he just trying to get basically a picture of what people think about him already? Or is he really trying to get something out of the disciples? Maybe I think he's trying to get something for the disciples to see, because the people have so many different opinions. But he's trying to get what y'all think about me. Because let's cross reference that with John 11 verse 40. And Jesus Yahshua said unto her, said I not unto thee that if thou would believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God. He said, if I did not tell you, if you would believe, that you will see the glory of God. And they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus Yahshua lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that thou hast heard me. And I know that thou hearest me always, but because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. So he said, like, he's praying and he's about to raise up Lazarus from the dead. And he's asking the Father to do it. And he's doing this because for the people's own belief. He's like, I know that you can do it. But he's like, I want these people to understand it. So a lot of stuff that he's asking, going back to Matthew 16, he's trying to get the disciples to understand things that he already knows. He's trying to open up their minds. So let's keep going. So verse 14, they said, some say that thou art John the Baptist. Some say Elijah, and others Jeremiah, one of the prophets. I'm sorry, Isaiah, Elias, and others say Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. He said unto them, but whom say ye that I am? So who do you think that I am? Or who do you say that I am? And Simon Peter answered and said, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus Yahshua answered and said unto him, blessed art thou, Simon Barjona, for flesh and blood has not revealed it unto you, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say unto you that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And so he was trying to get him to realize who he was and to see it with his own eyes, based off, sometimes we try to base our opinion on what the Most High is or who Christ is based off other people's opinions. So we ask other people, sometimes we're asking other people to try to justify our faith. And it's like, I believe this, but do you believe this? Like asking our friends or coworkers or people that go to church with, it's like if they believe this, I guess I'll believe it. But he's trying to be, specific. He's like, I don't care about your group that you associate with. Who do you think that I am? Because at the end of the day, when you face your day in judgment, you're not going to stand with the group. You're not going to stand with your congregation. You're not going to stand with your friends. You're going to be standing alone with the Most High. He's going to ask you that question and hold you accountable for the beliefs that you have, not the beliefs that your friends have. So he's asking you point blank, who am I to you? And so Peter was able to answer that based off his own opinion, not by the opinions of others. And that's how we have to form our own identity based off how we think about things in our perspective, not based on other people's perspective. At a time we all have mimic other people's opinions and been like a parrot, kind of mimicking what people think. But as we get older, we start to form our own opinions based off our own understanding of things and off the knowledge that we gather in life. All right. And then this is why Christ was so secure with who he was, because in Matthew 3, verse 16, and Jesus, so Yahshua, when he was baptized, went up straightway out of the water, and lo, the heavens were opened unto him, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and lightning upon him. And lo, a voice from heaven saying, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. So Christ understood that he is the beloved Son of the Most High. So he acted like that. he carried himself like that. And that's, for all the brothers out there, they have to carry themselves like that. You know, a lot of so-called black men think that, we get kind of picked on, or we get held to a higher standard, higher level of scrutiny in this society. Seems like if we do something and somebody of another race does something of the same extent, we get seen, we get punished more, we get broadcast more, we can become the face of it. You know, it's like because we're held to a higher standard because we are supposed to be those sons of God that the Most High has established on earth. We're supposed to have that. So we're supposed to hold ourselves to that high standard. That's why these other nations hold us to that high standard. That's why we can't live like other people. We have to be different from other people. We actually have to be better than other people. And that's on a lot of many levels. All right. Now, I told you I promised we was going to talk about identity. So this is the actual etymology of the word. Remember when we talked about what identity is? We talked about maybe it means characteristics or traits that distinguish you from other people. Well, this is what it means. So circa 1600, it means sameness, oneness, state of being the same. From French identité, from medieval Latin identitatem, nominative identitas, sameness. Ultimately from Latin idem, neuter, the same. So who are you supposed to be the same as? I thought your identity was like your own personal personality, I guess, your own independent personality, your own distinguished traits. But really, identity is the sameness or oneness. So who are you supposed to be the one or the same with, right? Because in the world, they kind of base your identity on things. So identity means sameness. So who are you supposed to be the same or similar to? So I saw this on Instagram. It's like I love high maintenance black women characters because the television and the music, they really create these characters, especially for so-called black women to kind of emulate, try to be like. So you see on TV shows like Fresh Prince of Bel Air and like Hillary, or being like the different world, being like Whitney Gilbert, or like Clueless, being like the Stacey Dash characters, or Girlfriends, being like that character, Living Single, being like Regine. These are seen as more the higher level, sophisticated black women on television that a lot of so-called black women sisters like to try to be like, I don't want to be the ratchet chick. I'm actually high. I have high man. I have standards. I have goals, and a lot of them they try to emulate what they saw on TV. But it's like, is that who you're supposed to be? Or even in the music industry, like Ciara, Whitney Houston, sorry, Mariah Carey, Beyonce, Mary J. Blige, Rihanna. Like they create these cult of personalities for sisters to follow and try to emulate. And now we have different ones. Now we got Nicki Minaj, we got Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, City Girls, now Glorilla. We have these characters that are influential, especially to the young girl, the young so-called black girl that makes them believe that they have to be this in order to be a woman. So this is who they want you to be the same as. That's why I say they want your identity to be based off that. But what does the scripture say about what your identity is? So this is Genesis 1, verse 26. And the Most High said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, over the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. So men and women were created in the image of the Most High. So that's the likeness. That's the identity that you're supposed to have. That's the identity that's being reformed when you come back into the knowledge of the truth of who you're supposed to be. That's the renewing of your mind. He's trying, the Most High is bringing you back into the identity that he imparted on you before you were even born. This is who you're supposed to be. You're supposed to show the characteristics and the traits and the qualities of the Most High, not of the world and not of these idols of the world. Let's look into the biblical usage of that word image. It literally means image. Let's see, from the unused root meaning to shade, a phantom. So it's almost like a shadow. So you're supposed to be made like in the shadow of the Most High. When you see your shadow, that is basically when the sun shines on you, you see the shadow of you on the ground because it's the it's like the person that it comes from. So figuratively, an illusion, a resemblance, hence a representative figure, especially an idol. So again, it's a physical image, and this is also from the word likeness. So likeness or similitude, in a likeness of or like as resemblance, concretely a model, a shape. So that's what the Most High is trying to get us into being like Him. That's the word supposed to be. Male and female is supposed to be like that. So that's where your identity comes from. Identity, it doesn't mean that you have your own special individual traits. Of course, we all have our own idiosyncrasies and what makes us unique as a person, as an individual. The Most High gave us all a personality, but our identity is supposed to be founded, rooted, and just based off the Most High and the statutes and the commandments and the laws that He has placed upon us. That's where we're supposed to really gain our identity. And a lot of people are lost because they're trying to be like someone else. They're trying to mimic something that they see. They're trying to, sometimes they haven't seen it. Some people, they weren't raised with a mother or a father or someone of a positive influence on them. So they're trying to emulate it the best way that they can. And of course, it's good to have positive role models and influences. But the number one entity that you should be gaining that from is from the Most High. Like it's told, said this one time in a song. I said, if you don't have an earthly father, a lot of people don't have earthly fathers that they can confide in. Then look up into the heavens. You got a heavenly father. So I say sometimes you got to sit down, write down questions about life, and why you're here, and present that to the Most High, and He'll answer questions. A lot of y'all who never read the Bible are not really familiar with the Bible. You just get into it in the last couple of years. You'll be amazed at how the Most High will really open your eyes to see things because, as so-called black women, so-called black men, this is your book. This is the book that the Most High really established for you. I know, of course, everybody partakes in the Bible, but this is really a journal that the Most High has written for our people. So we have a special connection with them. That's why it's like I want people to really embrace that as yours. So. All right. So I think that's all I got. Oh, one more. I got a video. I want y'all to check this out and then we'll close.
Do you know where I got into medicine? I assume there was some sort of flyer outside football practice. No, look, I don't care that I'm not that feminine. I still look rockin' hot when I'm naked, so I can get it whenever I want it. Okay, now that was feminine. Shut up. I became a doctor because I love the nuts and bolts of it all. Like that woman over there, I'm fascinated by the way her heart pumps blood through her body like a machine. The way her accents are covered in a thin layer of myelin like an insulated electrical wire. Tell me to empathize with her? To be totally open and vulnerable? Ugh. No, I can't even do that with my own family, let alone a total stranger. Sure, I can get past that. What makes you think you're so special? Every doctor in this place has flaws they can deal with since they were a little kid. The guy who taught me is constantly getting in his own way. Who needs a promotion anyway? I'm dating a girl who's always fighting her own neuroses. And you saw my biggest flaw in action today. I was willing to let a patient I liked go without an endoscopy because I wanted to spare him a painful procedure. Sometimes I care a little too much. Yeah, that caring thing has a major upside. And so does your cold bitchy thing. Will protect you from letting all this stuff weigh you down. Remember last Monday? We spent that night watching a young father die of lung cancer. Remember his name? No, not even a little bit. Jack Fremont. Sometimes I still think about it. And that is not a good thing. What? You're so in touch with your emotions and I can't really get to mine. It's kind of like I'm the dude and you're the chick. Not really getting that simile, Joe, but if it works for you, awesome. So, now we know what my deal is. How are you gonna fix it? I'm not gonna fix anything. I got my own garbage. You're gonna do this on your own. You're a doctor.
I like that scene. It really showed the the characteristics of each of those characters. Everybody has a problem. None of us are perfect. We all have flaws. We all have issues that we have to deal with. You know, these Bible studies aren't meant to pick on people or trying to make you into something that you feel like you should be. We're all works in progress. These Bible studies are a big reflection for me as much it is for teaching other people. So I like this scene because it really talks about how, especially how she ends it. She feels like, you're supposed to fix me. It's like another person can't fix you. You have to go to the trials and the tribulations of, your own issues of life, and then you figure out who you are as a person. Hopefully this, of course, this is a TV show, but hopefully the person that really is going through something like that, they really get their identity in the scriptures. But we all have to go through our process in life and try to figure out where we come from and who we are. All right. I wasn't gonna put this in, but this is the ending of that. Let's just finish this off. Cause I love Scrubs, man.
So you really think I'm the man for the job? The heck you think that I did? Oh God. You don't really think we're becoming friends, do you? When I come over for food, want to check out my hot cup? Yeah, I know what I said. There was a quiet time. Well, the nurse said that Mr. Lawton's having a bit of a breakdown about his cancer. To go over there and help him through it.
You really want me back and say, if he cries, I'm gonna hit him.
Don't mess it up.
Okay.
I knew I couldn't fix Joe, but I could still give her a push. Because sometimes that's all people need to deal with their fatal flaw. Save you up. Well,
What the hell is happening?
yeah, too soon. Way too soon, bud. And even if some people can only take a baby step.
I can't imagine what it's like to have cancer, but I bet it sucks.
It totally sucks. You alright?
Yeah, I'll get through.
Others might finally be able to stop trying so hard and just let the moment happen. Wow, you look amazing. Even in cookie pants? Especially in cookie pants. So
All right, that's all I got. I appreciate y'all listening.